All right, we need to take a look at this because this whole thing is ridiculous. First off, and as I have explained ad nauseum, and I will defend, actually, I am not in favor of banning TikTok. The main reason why I think that these people want to ban TikTok is because they don't have control over the algorithm. They don't control what you see, the way they control Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, etc., etc. But moreover from that, the senators that are pushing this bill, and by the way, anything that is a bipartisan bill, you should always look sideways at, because if the government is uniting under something, it's to hurt you. What they're doing is that these people, the senators and House representatives, they don't get money from TikTok the way they do from Facebook, Google, Twitter, etc. And moreover, I generally think it's probably a bad idea for the biggest upward mobility push of power into the hands of a government that actively hates you. I think that's probably a bad idea. So letting them, I don't know, review and prohibit certain transactions between persons in the United States and foreign adversaries, and for other purposes, probably is a bad way to start. The only way they're going to be able to do that is to monitor every bit of communication, cellular, video, and audio device that they can. That TikTok app reading your notes really doesn't seem that scary now, does it? And by the way, the reason TikTok collects data and the reason these Silicon Valley companies and the government sell data to China, they're not making clones of you. It's for advertising. They're trying to sell you more Chinese colorful plastic horseshit. But that also includes imposing and enforcing any mitigation measure to address any risk arising from a person covered, any covered transaction by any person with respect due to property. So they're going to keep an eye on literally everything that you do to protect America. Sounds familiar? If you're against the Patriot Act, you're with the terrorists. Go fuck yourself. Or, the term covered transactions includes current, past, or potential future transactions. And by the way, all of this is determined by the Secretary of Commerce. You know, an unelected official working for the Biden regime. Yeah, you against that war in Ukraine? Well, that's illegal now, buddy. Oh, here's another good rundown of the Restrict Act, the Ban TikTok Act, S686. It would allow government to access all data on your video device. If its service uses over 100,000 people, this including services like Ring doorbell or in-home security cameras. Or that says 1 million people, not 100,000. So yeah, they're gonna get a hold of your Ring footage, your security camera footage. They're gonna be able to look into your homes at any given point in time. Kind of reminds you a little bit of the 1984, staying away from the TV, huh? A VPN won't help you get around this either, because if you're caught using a privacy device such as a VPN or any service that has a VPN built into it, you will face up to 20 years in prison or $1 million in fines. Anything that the government comes together with a bipartisan, it's not to protect them, it is to protect them and to hurt you. Everyone needs to hear about the Restrict Act. The bill also currently known as the TikTok ban by many, which I don't agree with in the first place. But it looks like we have all been deceived again. The TikTok ban is nothing more than a distraction to push the Restrict Act into law. God, this all sounds so familiar, doesn't it? I think we've heard this one before. And I'm just going to speak in plain language because we're all adults here. If you open up TikTok and you see, as one senator put it, half-naked girls underage dancing around, that's the algorithm for you. That's what you see. My TikTok homepage is news and recipes. Some good memes, too. That's my TikTok homepage. You can game the algorithm real quick. And that's not to mention that the Restrict Act basically squashes all cryptocurrency. You know, the thing that they've been doing since the start of the Biden administration. It's going to squash all crypto. The term holding means an equity interest, a stock or security. Interesting, that is. Catastrophic effects on the security or resilience of critical infrastructure or the digital economy of the United States. That sounds like they're trying to not only squeeze some green horse shit in there, but anything that is a critic to the criticality of our infrastructure. Vague word. You shouldn't need to be a lawyer to read a law. This is purposely written in the most vague way possible. But these traitors and criminals had the foresight to include some examples of what people, or what they consider, or the unelected representative considers a foreign adversary: the People's Republic of China, Hong Kong, Macau. I'm not sure what that is. Macau. I don't know what that is. Oh, people. Cuba, Iran, Korea, North Korea, I assume, Russia, of course, Venezuela. Those are just some examples of things they consider enemies of the United States. That's interesting. That is very interesting. I wonder, Russia, so if you're anti-Ukrainian war, anti our involvement in the Ukrainian war, then guess what? You might go to jail. But if you think I'm full of shit, listen to what Ron Paul has to say about it.
There's a kind of a pathology, I think, kind of a mental illness in America that we feel like we can't survive without an official enemy. And the enemy of the day is China. We have to hate China. Well, there's a social media that I guess is Chinese-owned, TikTok. It's very, very popular with young people. They upload videos of themselves. Well, the U.S. government and the China hawks have identified it as a tool of Chinese intelligence to spy on these kids making these videos. And of course, that makes the NSA jealous because that's their job.
Yeah, that's literally the only reason. They're jealous because they want a replacement for it. We'll get rid of TikTok, then we'll get BikBok over here in the USA, and that will be the NSA. That will be our government's tentacles in your phone instead of the Chinese one. And our government will likely just sell all the same data to China anyway, the same way Facebook does, the same way Google does, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all of the above. Yeah, that data is getting sold anyway. So don't get it twisted. And before anyone goes, well, it's not about the data, it's about our children's attention spans. How come you're not advocating for Facebook to be banned with their Reels or Instagram with their Reels? Vine or Snapchat, they all have the same short video thing. Why not them?
To spy on us making videos. So, of course, you create this problem and then you exploit it to take away our liberties, just like, as you say, with the Patriot Act. Of course, we were attacked on 9/11. There should have been a response. But what was the response? It was to restrict our liberties, not to restrict the terrorist liberties. And we found that out, of course, by 2013 when Ed Snowden let us know that they were spying on us. But this bill came to my attention yesterday, and I immediately shared it with you because it brought back a lot of bad memories of the Patriot Act. And thankfully, our friend Jordan Schachtel, who's done some great work, and let's put this up. He's got a great Substack called The Dossier, which we definitely recommend. And he's written about it today.
All right, this is apparently Ron Paul's co-host, but dude's on point so far.
He said the Patriot Act on steroids. The D.C. Uniparty wants to use anti-TikTok legislation as a Trojan horse for censorship and surveillance.
And remember, this is the same censorship and surveillance they try to push on us under COVID. They try to push all of this same stuff on us under COVID, and I have not forgotten. It was COVID, then it's Russia, now it's the TikTok. And they actually did this pretty well because most right-wingers will be on board with it just because they don't like China. But they are so bogged down in one part of this, they are just completely ignoring the main part of it, which is that it's not to stop TikTok. They don't care about your information being taken. They don't care about attention spans being shortened. They care about what they can get out of it. And I had an argument with my co-host about this live on air. He said, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. But this isn't good. All they're doing is they are banning TikTok because they can't control the algorithm. So if I just don't believe that there is any altruism in this, if they're pushing this forward for the good of the kids, but keeping Facebook, keeping Twitter, keeping Instagram, keeping Snapchat, all that stuff perfectly fine. I just don't buy it.
And so again, they use this manufactured crisis that the Chinese are going to spy on us through TikTok and use it to not just get rid of TikTok. The Restrict Act is for everything. And here's a great little clip that was embedded in
You get Ron Paul some water?
Jordan's piece, and it's Ian Crossland, who's on Timcast.
This bill that's been introduced into the Senate, it's called the Restrict Act, is so dangerous because there really isn't much of a difference in these companies. If you start generally targeting social media companies for doing or for people doing things you don't like on those networks, it gives you carte blanche to just start ending networks, ending TikTok.
Okay, well, Ian's a fucking moron. It has nothing to do with what's going on the network. Half of Facebook's reels are re-uploaded TikToks, but Facebook is not facing any problems because they grease the palms of the same Congress that we're talking about here. But Tucker had a fantastic statement on it. Now, I disagree with him on the fact that TikTok should be banned, but listen to what else it is.
CNN, meanwhile, just put its tech reporter on the air to inform you that criticizing TikTok opens up Chinese Americans to, quote, hate and violence.
Yeah, notice how that sentiment, the being anti-TikTok because it's Chinese, has gone right out the window real quick.
If you criticize TikTok, you're killing Asian people. So, confronted with all this, you might support efforts in the Congress right now to ban TikTok altogether. And a lot
and we should not.
of people do, not just on the right, but also on the left, which is kind of interesting. This is one of those weird moments where there's, or appears to be, some kind of bipartisan consensus. And that alone might want to make you pause for a second. If everyone in power is saying the same thing, is it really a good idea? Let's take a closer look. And again, this is not a defense of TikTok, merely an acknowledgement of what's actually happening in Washington right now. So one of the bills that would ban TikTok is being pushed, as we said, by senators in both parties. It's called the Restrict Act. Mark Warner of Virginia and John Thune of South Dakota, Democrat and Republican, introduced this legislation. Now, the bill is ostensibly about protecting American national security and ending, quote, foreign adversaries from interfering in our elections through apps like TikTok.
But if our social media apps, our Twitter, our Facebook, etc., if they interfere, that's fine because they're doing it on the behest of the Democrat Party. But these foreign ones, they might not do it on the behest of the Democrat Party, so that's bad. It's almost like we live in two separate justice systems.
Because, of course, election interference by Twitter and Facebook is no problem at all. But election interference from TikTok is totally unacceptable. Okay. But
now, here's the thing. Some people in my own audience called me a conspiracy theorist for this. They cannot control the algorithm on TikTok. So, places like Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and Google who suppress certain news, there's not the same capitulation on TikTok. I'll tell you, a good portion of the news I get for the Friday show, at least a third of it, are news stories I saw on TikTok. Because it's different, it's alternative news being fed right into my camera, or right into my phone.
But in reality, and you should know this if you're opposed to TikTok, as we are, this bill isn't really about banning TikTok. It's never about what they say it is. Instead, this bill would give enormous and terrifying new powers to the federal government to punish American citizens and regulate how they communicate with one another. For example, the bill would regulate, quote, certain transactions between persons in the United States and foreign adversaries. Now, what's a foreign adversary and who gets to decide?
And what is a transaction? A transaction could be just sharing information, sharing news articles, sharing photos.
Oh, well.
Transactions, I believe, I could be wrong, by definition, do not have to be monetary.
The Secretary of Commerce and the DNI, not the Congress, get to decide what foreign adversaries are. Well,
yeah, I trust the Biden administration to make that call unilaterally.
That ought to trip a switch in your brain. And then the transactions with foreign adversaries would include, quote, any acquisition, importation, transfer, installation, dealing in, or use of any information and communications technology product or service, including ongoing activities such as mandated services, data transmission, software updates, repairs, or the provision of data hosting services.
So literally what I just said. If you get pictures from a Russian that they don't like, you can go to jail.
Well, that's pretty broad. Under this bill, if you engage in any of that with a so-called foreign adversary, as determined by, in this case, the Biden administration, that would allow the Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo, and the Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, to decide whether you're acting in the, quote, interest of a foreign adversary.
I just don't trust unelected officials to make that call about my well-being and the well-being of my family.
Again, that's another term that the executive branch, the Secretary of Commerce, gets to define without the interference of Congress.
Without the knowledge of Congress, too.
So if the Biden administration decides that you're doing this, then the Secretary of Commerce can then enforce, quote, any mitigation measure to address any risk arising from any covered transaction with any person or with respect to any property subject to the jurisdiction of the United States.
Can you be a little more broad? I don't think you covered literally everything.
These covered transactions can involve, quote, current, past, or potential future transactions. And the mitigation measures include, but are not limited to, throwing American citizens in prison for 20 years.
Are you now, or have you ever been, a Trump supporter? Did you personally vote on the election based off of information you received from a possible Russian source or a news article that came from Russia? Well, you're going to jail. I cannot believe this.
Think about that for a minute. So you would be allowing the executive branch, the Biden administration, to regulate speech on the internet. And if you are somehow involved with a, quote, foreign adversary, or let's say you oppose the war against Russia, you go to prison for 20 years. So this isn't about banning TikTok. This is about introducing flat-out totalitarianism into our system. Now, just because TikTok is so unappealing, just because it's a creepy, low-IQ Chinese plot designed to make our kids trans, and it is.
No, but that's a different argument for another day.
That does not mean that the people trying to ban TikTok have your interests in mind.
Which they most certainly do not.
Oh, it definitely doesn't, or America's. Keep in mind, these are exactly the same people who drained our strategic petroleum reserve and, in fact, promote China at every turn. Now they're telling you they're against China. They're not.
They're pro-China if it profits them. Banning TikTok would... You know what? I don't think we need to go any further in this video. I'll let it play for another minute, then I'll give you my final thoughts on it.
This is not an effort to push back against China. It's part of a strategy to make America much more like China, with the government in charge of what you read and see, and with terrifying punitive powers at their fingertips. Now, we've seen this before from the national security state again and again. Confronted with a foreign adversary, for example, after 9/11, the federal government uses the opportunity to expand their police powers over the American population. And they do it under false pretexts, and they do it quickly by whipping people into a panic. Usually that's rooted in some truth. TikTok is bad, sure. Al-Qaeda was terrible, of course. But these measures are not aimed at stopping the foreign threat. They're aimed at controlling the American population. And
because it's not the foreign threat that they're worried about. Do you think these people are genuinely afraid of China or Russia or anything like that? No. They are afraid of the unhappy populace that they have created, and that's all there is to that.
They rush it through. And they do it so quickly that no one ever explains how exactly does this preserve American national security. Now, according to Sandy Cortez, we really quote her, Congress has not even been briefed on any of this. Watch.
This is to the point where Tucker and AOC agree that this is a bad idea. We haven't even been briefed on it. They're using it to spy on us. It is all right there. But people on the left will go, well, TikTok's actually bad because of Russia or something. I don't even know what their argument is. And people on the right will turn around and go, well, it's actually China that's bad. No, it's giving up control of what you see and hear and letting people spy on you. They are trying to make their own TikTok that will do exactly the same thing. They'll sell the same data to China. They'll push the same LGBT horseshit on your phone, but they will have the control. That's all it is.
Usually when the United States is proposing a very major move that has something to do with significant risk to national security, one of the first things that happens is that Congress receives a classified briefing. And I can tell you that Congress has not received a classified briefing around the allegations of national.
The U.S. state asked for evidence to ban TikTok. The FBI offered none because there is none. This is just a general push of power to the executive branch, so that they have carte blanche to spy on you. And I guarantee you whatever thing they roll out is going to be worse than the current one.
Security risks regarding TikTok. So why would we be proposing a ban regarding such a significant issue without being clued in on this at all? It just doesn't feel right.
Okay, so again, in case you think we've gone crazy and we're defending Sandy Cortez, we should point out that she is a tool of the national security state. She's out promoting a war against Russia, and anyone who asks questions is an ally of Putin. Mm-hmm. And she's probably acting for motives that we find, well, abhorrent. But the question that she raises is real, and we want to be honest enough to say that. This may be one of those times, and they're common in Washington, where the solution has nothing to do with the problem, and in fact degrades our free country and makes it something unrecognizable.
And that is the most succinct way I could ever put it myself. This has nothing to do with anything that they're claiming. It's about giving them more power, and that's all there is to it. But if you want to make the argument that TikTok itself should be banned without all this extra horseshit, I would be willing to hear it. I will most likely disagree with whatever you say. If you want to age restrict it, sure. If you want to do anything like that, that's a conversation worth having. But outright banning TikTok while leaving Facebook, Twitter, Google, YouTube, and all that stuff right there in the open will solve literally nothing with they're pushing LGBT content on children. Well, what they're doing is that they're actually stealing data. That stuff will not change. It's a creature of the Chinese government. Okay? You realize it's all going to the same place, though, right? They just want to sell you more Chinese Alibaba wish nonsense.
Glenn Greenwald has been following all of this. He's host of System Update on...
Okay, I'll let you go watch the clip for the Glenn Greenwald interview. But that's my take on it. Not only do I think banning TikTok is bad writ large, because it is something that the American government does not have control over, like they have control over Twitter, like they have control over Facebook, like they have control over Google. It is putting a big void out there that they will fill with stuff they do have control over. And I think it's disingenuous at best, if not outright dishonest, to turn around and say, well, it's actually bad for your mind, but then not advocate for Facebook, Twitter, Google, YouTube, Instagram, and Snapchat, all these other things to be banned too. Having less choice, by definition, makes you less free, especially at the behest of a government that hates you. Now, on top of that, throw in the massive surveillance that they're trying to push in with this. On top of that, the whole foreign adversary and VPN thing. This is a bad bill born from a bad idea, born of a bad government. This is not good, and you should oppose this at every turn, even if you don't like the TikTok app. Like Gasly said on Twitter, fuck the TikTok app. But this is ridiculous. That is the most common sense take to have about this, that this is ridiculous. Having less choice has never been a good thing. Thank you to all the patrons listed down below for helping to support this channel. I say I'm the shitty version of PBS, but every time I do, someone says I'm the better version of PBS because I don't have panhandling, what do they call it? Panhandling pledge drives. With that being said, if you want to be a patron or do a one-time donation, you can do that down below. And make sure you come hang out for the Tuesday show and the Friday show right here. Turn that bell, hit the subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. This was kind of a disjointed, rambly video, but one that had to be made nonetheless. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with me, and have a wonderful day.